Learning with RIZWAN Hassan, 6.4, Exchange Rates. Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping into the deep end of macroeconomics to tackle exchange rates. First, we'll cover the absolute basics. Then we'll look at what makes them move, see how those movements shake up the whole economy, talk about what governments try to do about it, and finally get you totally prepped for your exams. You ready? Let's do this. Okay, so let's get right into it. First things first, what in the world is an exchange rate? Well, it all goes down right here in what we call the foreign exchange market, or just Forex for short. You gotta understand, this thing is massive. It's a global marketplace where literally trillions of dollars in currencies get traded every single day. It is by far the biggest financial market on the planet. So, at its heart, what is a nominal exchange rate? It's super simple, really. It's just the price of a currency. You know how a coffee has a price? Well, so does a currency, like the British pound or the US dollar. So if you see that 1 pound costs $1.30, yep, that's your exchange rate. Whoa, hold on, Sensei, I'm getting a little mixed up here. How can the number going up to 140 mean it's stronger, but going down to 120 means it's weaker? No worries, Sarah, I got this. Look, when your 1 pound can suddenly buy more dollars, like a whole 10 cents more, it's gotten stronger. We call that appreciation. But when it buys fewer dollars, it's gotten weaker. That's depreciation. See? It's easy when you see it drawn out. That's a great question, Sarah, and an awesome drawing, Econ-kun. That actually brings us perfectly to our next big question. Now that we know what these terms mean, let's figure out why these values are always changing. What are the forces at play? Okay, so in most of the world's big economies, they use what's called a floating exchange rate. Now, this just means that the government isn't setting the price. There's no one in an office somewhere deciding what it should be. Instead, its value is determined purely by supply and demand. How many people are trying to buy it versus how many are trying to sell it. Time to draw. So, check it out. The demand curve for a currency slopes down, right? Because when a currency's cheaper, more people want to buy it. And the supply curve slopes up, because when the price is high, more people are willing to sell it to cash in. The spot where they meet, that's the equilibrium price. And now for the magic. Let's say a country jacks up its interest rates. Kaboom! Suddenly, investors all over the world want a piece of that action. So they start demanding more of that country's currency to invest there. That shoves the demand curve to the right. And look, we have a new higher price. That's appreciation, live in action. And that really is the whole story, right there on the screen. Demand for a currency goes up and it appreciates when foreigners want to buy your country's stuff, your exports, or when they want to invest because your interest rates are looking tasty. On the other hand, the supply of your currency goes up and it depreciates when your own citizens start buying more imported goods or decide to invest their money somewhere else. Now let's move from the chart to the real world. A change in the exchange rate doesn't just stay in the Forex market. Oh no, it sends out massive shockwaves that can be felt across the entire economy. So let's trace out those ripple effects. Oh, Sensei, this reminds me of something from my textbook, the J-curve. I hear it's a big deal for the current account when a currency depreciates. What's the scoop? It sounds super important for exams. Fantastic question, Syra. You're right, it's huge. But before we get to the J-curve itself, we gotta talk about the rule that makes it work, the Marshall-Lerner condition. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. It just says that for a weaker currency to actually help your trade balance, people have to be sensitive to price changes. They actually have to buy more of your now cheaper exports and fewer of those now pricier imports. And here's what that looks like in action. It's a bit of a roller coaster. Right after a currency depreciates, people and businesses are kind of stuck in their old habits. They have contracts, demand is inelastic. So you're getting paid less for your exports, but you're still paying more for imports, which makes your trade deficit even worse. Yikes. But give it time. People find new suppliers, contracts expire, and demand becomes elastic. Then your exports take off, imports fall, and the current account swings way back up. See? It makes a J shape. Exactly. So you see, in the short run, depreciation can actually be pretty painful. The trade balance gets worse, and it can even pull down GDP and employment. But if that Marshall-Lerner condition holds true, the long-run picture is way better. It's a classic case of short-term pain for long-term gain, which, as you can imagine, is a real headache for policymakers. And that leads us to the next big question. If you're the government, what do you do about all this? What tools do you even have? let's dive into the policies governments can use and the really tough choices they have to make. At the end of the day, the government's number one goal here is stability for the current account. You don't want a huge permanent deficit piling up debt, but you also don't want a massive surplus, because that can cause its own problems. You're looking for that sustainable, sweet spot, right in the middle. So governments have a few options. They could try expansionary fiscal or monetary policy to cause a depreciation and hopefully help exports. But look at the trade-offs. Those same policies could kick off some serious inflation, and lowering interest rates might cause investors to pull their money out of the country super fast. And don't even get me started on protectionism. Tariffs and quotas just risk a huge trade war where nobody wins. And that right there is the fundamental problem. The exact tools you need to use to fix your current account are the very same things that can make inflation spiral out of control. It's the ultimate economic conflict. All right, deep breaths, everyone. Let's switch gears and talk about how you're going to use all this incredible knowledge to absolutely crush your exam. Here's your game plan. I want you to burn this into your brain. It's your 3-step mantra for success on any question about this stuff. Step 1, define. Start by clearly explaining the key term. Step 2, diagram. You must back up your words with a perfectly labeled diagram. And step 3, evaluate. This is where you get the top marks. Talk about the J-curve, mention Marshall Lerner, and always discuss the policy conflicts. And here's a final rapid-fire checklist. Know your diagrams inside and out. Be ready for some basic percentage change calculations. Have these key evaluative phrases ready to go. And please, 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 always bring the Marshall Lerner condition and the J-curve into your analysis of depreciation. It shows the examiner you really know what you're talking about. And that is a wrap on exchange rates. We covered a ton today. If you feel like you need a little more one-on-one help to really master these topics, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for watching.